Oh, no, no. Yeah, as always, this is a beta version of the show, and today it's even more complicated because we're going to be Skyping at the second half of the show in about 15 minutes with the guys with a brand new Discovery TV series.
Yep, it's called Twin Turbos.
Yep. And that's going to be really exciting and really challenging to do all this in one. So, news, then we have a top 10.
Yep.
Famous movie cars.
Famous movie cars.
And as always, at the end of the show, after the interview, we'll have a picture of the day. So if you guys can guess the picture, you can win a hat if you email us.
Just to remind you guys, don't put it on this page. Go to info@tflcar.com, and that's where you send your answer.
Yep. And already a lot of people are joining. Thank you guys for joining this show.
Lots of stuff going on.
As always, there's somebody from New York. Always appreciate you guys joining. So let's hit the Geneva Auto Show teasers.
Absolutely.
Geneva Auto, actually they call it the Geneva Motor Show.
We call it what we want.
Boom! And Geneva Motor Show is coming up very
Yep.
soon. And Lexus has showed an image of their new crossover.
Yeah, the UX.
It's right there.
Now, from what I know, this is based on their smaller car architecture, and basically it fits underneath the NX crossover, which is based on the RAV4, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to compete with the likes of like the X1,
Yep.
Q3, Mercedes CLA,
The XC40.
E-Pace. Roman just drove the E-Pace.
Yes, he did.
Overseas.
Yep.
So, yeah, Volvo, there's a lot of cars actually coming into this segment.
The segment is blowing up.
So second is actually a teaser image of the Audi A6.
Yeah, check this out, guys. Now,
Well, it's kind of a leak, actually.
yeah, this is a leaked image.
Yes.
Leaked. So,
So it's going to look, so if this is true, so it looks a lot like the new A8 that just recently came out. And by the way, I saw the new A7 in Detroit, and that was a hot car.
this one's a little bit more mellow in my book. I don't know. I mean, it's good looking, but it doesn't hit me.
Well, I think German design, especially when you're talking about like their mid-level sedans, it's conservative. You know, they don't like changing too much. You know, they're keeping their shapes. So next on our list.
This one. I really like the way this looks, too. I mean, in terms of coming into an electric vehicle that you guys might actually want to drive because it's good looking, this is one of them.
Jaguar I-Pace. And this is a really powerful vehicle, actually. They're saying 395 horsepower, 310 miles of range.
Right.
That's really up there with Tesla, you know, as far as hitting them in the middle.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely going after Tesla with this one.
Yep, and this is going to be a March 1st reveal.
Yep.
But there's something else happening this week, which I'm personally very excited about.
Especially because you're the truck guy, the guru,
Towing.
editor, and all that.
Towing. GMC is unveiling their all-new 2019 Sierra 1500.
That's right.
And I'm going to be there. I'm very excited. So we're going to be bringing this week a lot more about this truck. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, that's going to be on TFLtruck.com and also on our YouTube TFL channel.
Yes, and also here because I want to try to stream that
that's
live.
right.
So it's also going to be on this channel as well.
Okay, let's move on.
Self-driving cars, and this is an interesting news that in California they're going to be allowing self-driving cars in April of this year. There's several rules, permits. There has to be a remote operator available for those cars. What do you think?
I think that when Southern Californians start showing the road rage, which is prevalent down there, they will start shooting at cars that are basically empty. It's going to be interesting. Bottom line is that I don't think it's a great idea in Southern California, to be honest with you.
Well, you're from there.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is going to be very interesting. We want to see how this plays out.
It's going to be interesting.
Finally, there's something that we found an image.
Yeah.
This is kind of a Bugatti Veyron gone wrong.
Gone wrong. Very wrong.
Veyron?
Very wrong.
So this is a Mitsubishi 3000 GT that somebody has decided to convert into a Bugatti. Guys, what do you think?
Oh, that poor car. Oh my
Well,
God.
poor people who have to see this car.
Yeah, it's hurting just to glance at it. No, this is not the picture of the day. This is
No, we're not going to be guessing this. We're going to have something else.
Something better to look at, that's for sure. All right, let's move on. I think it's time for the top 10, you think?
Well, yeah, let's
But
hit the
before
top
we
10,
do, how about looking for some shout outs? Now, guys, on this episode, because we're doing the interview at the tail end of the show, we won't be able to do shout outs then. So we're going to try to take care of them now. And if we've missed anything you guys have said, remember, this becomes a regular video once we're done broadcasting, and we will look at the questions and comments in that section. Okay, so just keep that in mind.
A lot of people are joining. Charlie, there's Matt, people from Germany. Thank you very
V.
much.
Gates.
Also, people from Austria. Wow.
Oh, another V. Gates.
East Texas.
What's up?
They're saying one comment is, "What's up with Lexus design recently?" I mean, they're kind of evolving their spindle grill, and they're still hitting that grill.
They are, and one of the things I believe with Lexus is that they're trying really hard to go, toe to toe with the German automakers. One thing the German automakers have always done is they've always kept their vehicles within a certain design area, and I think that Lexus wants to match that. And that's exactly what they're doing. Whether or not it's pretty is debatable.
Sure, but I think some of the German manufacturers actually, all their cars like Mercedes, C, E, and S class sedans, they look almost identical but stretched.
Right.
I think Lexus is doing a good job at actually kind of evolving certain models so they don't look like cookie cutters, but they're actually are a little bit more unique. And Mercedes has other vehicles like their hot coupes and that kind of do that same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to see where Lexus is going, and time will tell. I think it's a good start.
Well, let's go to the top 10.
Top 10 it is. The top 10 is the big screen icons. Top 10 famous movie and television vehicles.
So number 10.
Number 10. Now, right before we get started, we want you guys to throw in your picks as well. And obviously, we're only doing 10, so there's a lot more out there.
Yeah.
But number 10, for those of you who loved Mad Max, it's the Ford Falcon XB GT Coupe.
This is one of my favorite movies. I was a kid, basically, when this came out. And finally, I was able to watch that movie. And it was just kind of the opening shot, or whatever, the closing shot, where you can see the supercharger turning, but in fact,
it's not even a real supercharger. They did later on. There's actually companies that can build that car for you, and they have real superchargers that they can put on there. But in the movie originally, majority of the components that were on there weren't real. So it's an awesome looking car, quad exhaust on each side. I mean, it's awesome, right? All right, so that's number 10. Let's get to number 9.
Kind of switching gears.
Yeah, that's right. This is Herbie. Yep, number 53, the VW Beetle from the Love Bug. Now, here's an interesting piece of trivia for that vehicle. Dean Jones, who's the main actor for that first movie, he actually took the vehicle and brought it out onto the street just outside the studio and drag raced a few people. Why? Because that had a 911 engine in it. So instead of a little 4-cylinder, it had a 6-cylinder in it, and it absolutely kicked ass, and he had some fun.
Not my favorite car on this list.
Really? I grew up with that as a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not kind of... I was in Russia.
Well, yeah, you had Ivan the Lada instead of Herbie the
Yeah,
Lava.
and Neva.
Yeah, the Neva, yeah.
A lot of Neva.
It was an angry car. It smoked, actually. All right, let's move on.
Next, number 8 is...
yeah.
this is a hot car.
Come on,
Aston
guys.
Martin DB5.
Goldfinger, one of the first movies it was in. But it also came back a few times, including very recently in Nightfall, James Bond. And that car got, blown to crap. Interesting to note, no, it wasn't an actual DB5. It was
Thank
actually
goodness.
a 3D molded car. It was made basically out of paper, believe it or not. This is, look it up. Beautiful car, absolutely extraordinary to look at, and
It's iconic. I mean, it was already iconic, but the movies made it even more so, and it's still. I don't know how much money these cars go for, but it's multi bucks.
yeah, big bucks. Let's move on to one that a lot of us are very familiar with.
Yes.
And that's the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am.
Booyah!
Smokey and the Bandit.
And I said Mad Max movie was one of my favorites. I love this series. Probably even more.
The first one for me was still one of the most iconic movies, partly because of Jackie Gleason being so damn funny. But now this vehicle, they had 3 of them that they used in the movie. And according to the director, in an interview, he said that they barely were running by the end of the movie, that they had been beaten to hell. So just keep that in mind when you want to go out and buy one of these. And by the way, they are starting to really collect in terms of collector dough. Very expensive.
Yeah, a lot of shout outs coming in.
Okay.
A lot of people joining. So
Yeah, let's.
there's a multi-purpose reviewer, of course. Thank you for joining.
Always. Thank you, man.
Yeah. And there's Jacksonville, Arkansas, actually.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy is here. Somebody's saying Joe Dirt's Hemi.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Remember that car?
Yeah, it's not on our list, of course, but it's that was actually pretty cool. I love that he was walking around through the movie with an auto trader in his hand all the time. All right, let's move on to number 5.
No, let's go to number 6.
Let's go to number 6. I don't know why I jumped. Well,
Yeah, this car.
speaking of
that
jumping.
actually it's autonomous. It talks to you. So actually, this car you could probably buy today, right?
if you think about it, you pretty much could buy that car, with the exception of being able to push a button and make the car magically jump over things. Get the Trans Am from the 80s. Not a whole lot going on with the car. There were 2 different versions of it through the life of Knight Rider. I believe the second generation of the car had like wings and stuff that popped out and whatnot, but
Yeah, I remember that.
That kept it contemporary for the last, I believe, 2 seasons. But yeah, I was a kid. I grew up on this show, and you know, David Hasselhoff actually affected Andre quite a bit. Why? Show him what you're wearing. Belt buckle.
Belt buckle. I don't know if you can see that.
It's there. Trust me.
All right, number 5.
Number 5. You guys all know this one. General Lee.
General Lee. It's just a famous car. I mean, and the jump scenes that it's done.
Yeah. Now there's rumors that they've destroyed anywhere between 100 to 150 of these cars.
I believe it.
Through the life of the Dukes of Hazzard, which, when you think about it, kind of sucks. But you know, it was for TV. Back then, these things were a dime a dozen, right?
Yeah. So moving on.
Moving on.
Number 4 on the list is a van, actually.
Yes, A-Team.
A-Team van.
Hmm. That's a GMC Vandura. Now, here's another point. When they were filming this show, for those of you who watch any of the old episodes, a lot of the vans weren't this van. As a matter of fact, they even used a Ford van in some of the stunts
What?
that they would do. At a distance, most vans have back then, had a
Same
similar,
shape.
exactly,
Yeah.
very similar shape. So as long as they, painted it black with the red stripe and everything else, at a distance, they could do things with the van. And so they went through quite a few of these vans. And if you look at the front end from the beginning of the show leading up to the end of the show, it changed over time.
And this was not my show. I missed this show as well,
Oh,
unfortunately.
it was always weird for me because I grew up in a military family. And, all these guys had like mini 14s and they're shooting and everything and never hitting a human being, but making cars flip.
That's awesome.
It was really weird, and my dad would just go, "I hate this show, turn it off." So he didn't like it very much.
All right.
Let's move on.
Number 3 is a Batmobile.
Yes, but not just any Batmobile. That's the Tumbler, baby.
Oh, yeah.
And that's from the Dark Knight trilogy. And as far as I'm concerned, the coolest of all the Batmobiles.
Probably the most badass. Just the size of it and the tires, and it folds out. It does a lot of things.
It does a lot of things, but it also looks like something that you could terrorize children with, which always makes it a good car. And another thing, by the way, this was never developed in the United States. It wasn't done by a U.S. prop company or anything. No, built in Britain. That's right. I'm sure you guys already knew that. Let's move on. We're near the top, and this is number 2. You guys are going to recognize this right away.
Back to
Hello,
the Future.
McFly.
Yes.
Back
Obviously,
to the
one of
Future.
the most iconic movie cars.
DeLorean DMC-12.
Yeah, and a lot of people just, not even car people recognize this car.
Yeah.
They say, oh, yeah, Back to the Future.
Now, by the way, this car is going to be featured heavily in an upcoming movie called Ready Player One. So that's worth noting. And we're going to move on to number 1 because we have an interview coming up.
Yeah, number 1 is a car that we actually recently saw in person. I almost touched it. They didn't allow touching it.
I did.
Ford Mustang Bullet. And it rolled out in Detroit. I don't know. You guys probably saw it on our channel.
Yep.
They fired it. They drove it on stage. It smelled like
old
gasoline.
car, yeah.
It was so incredible.
It was a daily driver car. A family actually was driving this thing after it was used in the movie. 1968 Bullet, by the way, is the name of the movie. Bullet with Steve McQueen, and Steve McQueen's granddaughter was out there.
Was there also with the car,
Mm-hmm.
and also launching the new 2019 Bullet.
That's right. So yeah, and there it is. So,
Yep.
And we have that, by the way, on video with our coverage of the 2018 North American International Auto Show.
You guys can check it out. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yes. All right, we are right by time where we're going to be calling up the guys with the new show from Discovery called Twin Turbos. Now,
Yeah.
this is a father and son team, and they do 2 things, really. they're preparing. They're working their way up to racing NASCAR, and they are also fabricators, and they do a lot of original one-off vehicles for clients and other things. So we're trying to call them up right now, and hopefully, if everything works, we'll be able to get their faces on that screen. So
Yes. So let me try that.
Yep. Let's see if this.
They already
works.
replied. They sent me a text message saying they're around.
Yep.
And we're connected. Hey.
There we go.
Hey
Okay.
guys.
There they are. Hey, how you guys doing? Can you, we're getting you up on the screen in our studio, and right now we're broadcasting live. Can you guys see us? We're trying to. My big fat head doesn't fit in the screen very well. There we go. There we go, guys. Okay, so our viewers are able to see you guys live right now, and yeah, okay, we're good.
Doug and Brad. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys. We just had an opportunity to watch your show, and it looked fantastic.
Oh, thank you. You watched the whole show?
Well, the first episode, I think it's your pilot episode, right?
Yeah, we're not supposed to talk about it, right?
What show?
Right. So we wanted to learn more about, how you guys kind of started and, how'd you guys get to this point?
I think the dad's going to have to go first. So, Doug, I guess you're going first on this one. How did you guys get your start? How did this all begin?
Well, as a kid, we didn't have a lot of money, so pretty much everything that I built, we had to get either from the dump or, secondhand. So I think it started out with fixing up bikes, and then it kind of slowly evolved into a $200 Chevy pickup, 1959 that I bought when I was 15.
Nice.
And I thought it was the best thing in the world, but I look back at it now and it's like, oh God, how was I proud of that thing? But it started with really just fixing up my own stuff. And that's kind of how it's evolved. I actually saved up a little bit of money when I moved to California and bought a Chevy pickup for in 1990. And I started making parts for my own truck. And then people would see it, and then they're like, hey, where'd you get that front bumper? And so I started making parts for vehicles. And it was just, slowly. And then I started manufacturing a lot of stuff out of aluminum, a lot of aluminum parts, all accessories for vehicles. And at the same time, GMC had come to me, and they were doing a Harley truck. So I would actually machine out some of the Harley emblems that were on the door sills and their plaques and stuff that they later on made in mass production on some of these vehicles.
That's cool.
And then, I'll skip through it a little bit. Then I sold the company. I was approached to sell it about 10 years after I started it. And in the meantime, Brad's been in the shop, nonstop. I wouldn't let him watch TV or play video games if it was daylight.
I used to be mad at that.
Yeah, he would get mad. I'd say, hey, and if you ask me, you don't play them at night. So he wasn't even allowed to ask. So he grew up and his brother grew up. They had to be outside doing something. And as young as Brad was, he would bring in, he had this big wheel tricycle, and we had two of them. And one day he brought it in, he goes, and he was just a little guy, I don't even know how old, whatever it was, maybe 8 or younger.
Probably, yeah.
And he goes, hey, can you cut the front end off of this one? I want to cut it here, and I want to weld it on the back of the truck. And I'm thinking, okay. So I did. I cut it off, and I welded it on the back. And I look out there, and these kids would not get off this thing. It was Brad driving the limo bike, and it was like 2 girls, and then one standing on the back holding the shoulders of the other.
Awesome.
And they could ride that thing. He called it a limo bike.
Nice.
Now you got to be proud as a dad when you see something like that. I mean, come on. I'd pay money to see my kid do that. That would be really cool. Now, by the way, you guys got to know that in order for us to keep the name straight, we were calling Doug Daddy, and we were calling Brad Baby. I am so sorry that we did that. I hope you didn't see that on any of our boards or prompters. But here's a question. Leading from you, Doug, going from fabricating and everything else, how did racing come into the picture?
Well, that's the funny thing. So when I grew up, we did everything as a family, or we just didn't do it, whether it was snowboarding, dirt bike riding, everything. And we never really focused on one sport because, again, we all did it together. So we were all just sitting at home a few years ago, about 2.5 years ago now, and we saw an off-road commercial of these trucks just flying across the screen, just racing, and we're like, wow, that looks pretty awesome right there. And so anyway, we looked up the series, and the next race was literally in like 2 days from when we were right there, and we're like, let's go watch that. So we went to Arizona, and immediately we got like hooked. I mean, just walking through the pits, looking at everything. Him and I were just freaking out because we're like, this is nuts, right?
We put money down on a truck that was for sale, but we didn't have enough to pay for it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
literally, we were that excited, and yeah, walking through the pits and seeing everything, and then watching these trucks race. I mean, it's no joke when trucks are flying 200 feet in the air, you know, playing bumper cars, hitting each other. It's pretty intense in person. So
Yeah.
after that, and we literally were hooked. Like he said, we put money down on a truck, and we came back and we sold pretty much everything but the house, and we went and bought the truck. And then you know, again, I've never driven it like race anything or anything like that. So my dad and I would just go to the track, you know, anytime we could when we weren't working, and just get lap time and, you know, seat time for days. And so that's kind of how it started. And then one of our buddies, Ken, he worked at the series, and he's all, look, I think you guys need to go race the national level. I mean, I've been watching Brad, and I think he's ready. And we both look at Ken, we're like, no, you know.
Well, because it's only me and him too, and these guys got 10 plus guys on teams, and
Giant semi trucks and all that stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, at the time, it was. Actually, my whole off-road career was my dad and I, and you know, our thing was, you know, I got into racing, and I just immediately got super focused. I had a mentor, Brian Deegan, train me, and you know, from that first day that I got in the truck, you know, I changed everything, my diet, everything. I mean, I lost 30 pounds before
Wow.
my first race. I mean, I mentally, you know, I'd read books, and I was just super into it. And then we would come back every time, and my dad and I would prep the truck, just because we couldn't really afford for anyone else to do it, because it takes a lot to prep an off-road truck. A lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so anyway, it kind of went from that, and then we went to our first 2 professional races ever, and you know, we show up there and
scared to death.
scared. There is just, I mean, all the big name brand teams, and they all have 20 plus people. Like, they go to staging, and there's like people putting on everyone's helmets and everything, and then
I'm running. I have to put his net up and run like, I don't know, 500 feet.
Did you give him grapes or something, or you know, were feeding him or something?
We didn't have time for grapes.
Where did grapes come from?
Sorry, I don't know.
Just don't even listen to him like that.
I was seeing you, you know, in your luxury.
Oh, leaning back and getting fed grapes like all the high-end guys do. Yeah, that's what they do when they race.
Oh yes.
Sorry, guys. But here, now
The show.
you are at a level now where you're racing off-road, and you've done very well. You actually literally freaked people out, because you came from nowhere and started winning like right away. But then you start talking about NASCAR, and I think a lot of people out there don't quite realize that you're not just about dirt trucks and whatnot and fabricating, but NASCAR sort of sits above you guys. Can you explain that and tell everybody what you have in mind?
yeah. So to touch back, you know, real quickly of what happened. So basically,
Yeah, please.
You know, we went down there for our my first two basically races ever, which happened to be professional races, and we ended up sweeping the weekend. And first day we qualified first, finished first, and then the second day we qualified first. We got inverted to 6th place, which was like in the middle of the pack, and won first again. And that's kind of what started it. And then you know, long story short, I was leading the points the whole year and got in a pretty bad crash, and that kind of we took a break. So. But with all this, you know, I've always wanted to do asphalt racing and NASCAR, and we just figured, you know, if we get into something to where we could try and make a name, or, you know, get our name out there, it could be a nice transition. And just because it was so entertaining to watch in person. And so once we did that, you know, we definitely got our name out there. And then when we were taking a break, we just really were focusing on just our family business, building cars and having fun, really. I mean, that's what we're about. Everything we go out, we're literally having the most fun we could have, but we're trying the hardest we possibly can at everything.
So how does yeah, I was gonna also ask, how does the Twin Turbos, the show, come in also in the picture? Because it's launching tomorrow, right?
Yeah, so it's launching tomorrow. It's pretty exciting. It's been a lot of work.
On Discovery Channel.
So, yeah, Discovery Channel at 7 and 10 tomorrow night.
Nice.
Is that Pacific time?
What's that?
Pacific time?
7 Eastern.
Or is it Eastern?
7 Eastern, 10
Oh.
Pacific, probably?
I think it's both. Yeah.
That's about.
Oh, okay.
Tell you what, guys, just watch Discovery Channel basically from morning until night. You're going to see them twice.
Yeah.
How's that work? Just telling everybody to do that. Yeah, tell us about the show. We've unfortunately we got to
Couple
go.
minutes.
We got about 2 minutes, but tell us about the show because a lot of people don't realize that it's fabricating, racing, you guys all in one viewable burrito of high octane turbo.
All right. So real quick, so the show is a lot different. You know, it's not a drama based show. It's a family, fun, hardworking. I mean, we build cars, we race. I try and get in anything I can and race it, whether it's dirt, off road, you know, street. I don't care, drag racing. I want to do
Street's
it all.
more money. That's why we're going asphalt. Because we don't have any money, so we're trying to capture sponsors on the asphalt. And that's one of the biggest things that we're pushing on why we're pushing towards NASCAR.
Right.
And then there's building. I mean, we have a fun crew. I mean, there's a lot of fun personalities. We're always playing tricks. So it's a different show, and not only is it a different show, it's a real show. It's the only thing that's changed in the past 3 years in my whole life is now there's cameras around. So they're basically capturing all the moments that we would have done without them, but they're just capturing everything happen.
That's pretty cool.
That's guys, that is awesome. We really appreciate that both of you have taken the time out to be with us. And what we would like to do is in the near future, once the show gets some legs, we'd like to interview you again and see how it's going. How's that sound to you?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great. Anytime, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, boys. But do you watch TFL Truck, the Fast Lane Truck cover? Our show?
I don't have time to watch it.
That's a good answer.
Daylight, he can't watch TV.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Fair enough. Hey, guys, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you very much.
So Twin Turbos Discovery Channel tomorrow, 7 and 10 p.m.
All right. Cheers, guys. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
That was our first Skype, and I think fairly successful.
Did it work?
Yeah, except grapes. Grapes.
Well, you know, racing off-road, you know, eating grapes.
I don't really see how that, guys. I
was trying
want
to
you to
be
write
funny.
in here and let us know whether it's turning. But it's so out of the. I mean, maybe in Russia is that what happens? Oh, that's what was the Russian race car? The F1 guy?
Kafiyat?
No, the other one, the one that was really good.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Okay. The whole grapes thing totally threw me. All right, guys, let's get
Picture
on.
of the day really fast.
Picture of the day. We're going to try to look at a couple shout-outs while we're looking at it. There it is. And that is actually from a movie.
Yep.
I can't say too much about it because it would give it away.
We can't say anything.
So not only do we want you to say what year, make, model, but what movie it was used in. All right?
And email info@tflcar.com, and the first person to email the correct answer, you can win a hat. You don't have to get an Alfa Romeo hat. We have Jeep, we have Chevrolet, several other hats. So just let us know what's kind of your favorite brand. And
Yeah, but you want the quadrifoglio, trust me on that, because that's really freaking cool.
it's a cool hat, and it's basically Alfa Romeo's good luck charm.
Yeah, and it's also
racing.
a four-leaf clover right before St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
So you want to win that.
It's not a bad hat.
All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate you joining us. I believe we are just about out of time, so we're going to try to take some of these comments and answer them once this becomes a live video or a pre-recorded video. Huh.
Yeah, people make fun of grapes.
Well, dude, because it makes no sense.
Right.
None.
Okay.
We're going to have to work on. Roman's going to give me healed. Grapes! How dare you?
Grapes. No, demerit. Demerit.
Demerit.
Demerit.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you.